And welcome back to part 12 of What Naruto Had a Sister. Last time on the Naruto What If, the Gar retrieval mission went off relatively without a hitch. In fact, because Sasuke is still around, it went off a lot easier than last time. And Naruto being part of Team 7. And they were able to save Garachu, gave her life, and they got the information about the spy on the bridge. Now, this is actually where there might be a very big deviation. Kakashi didn't actually have to use his Mangekyo Sharingan at all. So he's perfectly fine. So he's still leading Team 7. And the real question is, do they even bother going out to meet the spy to begin with? They were initially Naruto and Team 7 were so adamant about doing it because they wanted to go rescue Sasuke, so they want information on Sasuke. Here, there's no reason for any of them to risk their lives. There really isn't. So, yeah, I actually think the information that they are given, apart from the little bit of information that they give about Sasori, I think they just send Yamato and the gang, in his group of Anbu out to handle that, and it goes about as well as you might think. Actually, it probably goes a little bit better. They might succeed in at least injuring, but they are not really capable of doing much because it's still Orochimaru, and Kabuto is roughly around an Anbu level. We know Jiraiya said he could go toe-to-toe with Kakashi, and everything we've seen Kabuto kind of proves that, honestly. So, yeah, the gang just kind of hangs out a bit. Naruto goes and meets up with his friends. He sees Hinata there. It's like, Hinata is better than she is in the original. She doesn't just flat out pass out when she sees him. She's actually very happy to see Naruto. It's like, Naruto, and she actually, over the years, has worked up the courage to actually go and give him a legitimate hug of like, oh, it's so good to see you. And Naruto's like, oh, it's so great to see you too. He's actually surprised. Oh, well, she's gotten a lot braver. Naruto's like, she's finally worked that up. And Kiba, Shino. I think this actually allows him to, let me phrase that. I believe because he actually had a relationship with Shino, albeit not really delved into it, but the fact that they were friends, actual friends in the academy, means that he can recognize Shino from the beginning, or at least takes a moment like, and oh, Shino, sorry, I almost didn't recognize you with the new outfit. And yeah, Shino, get over yourself. Can we just say how much of a friend, you recognize Kiba right away? It's like, dude, don't get me wrong. We as the audience know that is you, but it's Naruto, dense as hell, and you dressed up in a way that you are hidden extremely well under that thing. So yeah, here Naruto takes a moment and he says, I almost didn't recognize you there. You changed the outfit. It's good to see you again, Naruto. And hello, Naruto. It's a pleasure to see you. Hi, Shino. How you been? We haven't really hung out lately. It's like, no, we have not. And it's just them just interacting. Sasuke and even Sakura are there, and kind of just interacting with teammates. They're just having a nice time. They're walking, and they run into Shikamaru and even Choji. Naruto's not dumb enough to call him fat this time. Not that he got a chance to call him that anyway before Sai interrupted. Which brings up the good question. Sai, how is that going to go down? Is Danzo going to be able to even put a fifth member on Team 7 when there's already 4 of them? 5 if you count Kakashi. That's usually, they make 4-man teams for a reason. You get the leader, and you get the 3 other ninjas. Usually a good balance. 5 is a bit much, but it doesn't really sound that much out of the realm of possibility. In fact, if anything, it really can help add that extra bit of dynamics as long as they have a really good repertoire with each other. I can't see Danzo getting his way with adding a 6th member on the team. I really can't, because even though the 2 advisors are going to probably choose Tsunade out a little bit like they did originally, Tsunade probably would just throw it back in his. There's already 4 members on that team. That's already 1 extra than is needed. You add any more on there, that makes 5 ninja altogether. You add any more on there, you're going to just disbalance the entire team. To which she has a point, but then we'll just remove one of them from the team to balance it out. Perhaps this and Naruto and Tsunade just like, Yeah, and the Tsunade just looks at him and does actually like literally, like legitimately, actually, and figuratively flex her authority a little bit. She's like, look, I understand. I understand you wanting to protect your stupid ass. But he's more than that. He's a ninja and a person. And I should note that while you're advisor, it's your job to advise and give advice, and you have some say. And then all of a sudden, she does crack the table. She's like, ugh. It's like, what happened? The way team, you may be able to add someone on your authority, but you don't get to just take away someone from a team just because you want to add someone. What happens in my teams lies majority wise on my shoulders, and I say, and that's that. And she basically understood. um, and they're just like, do what you'd like. And yeah, Danzo unfortunately doesn't get to do it. And Danzo's annoyed by this. Unfortunately, Danzo thought he'd be able to get his way, so I think Sai still goes out of his way to attack Naruto and the gang. I think it's more just Naruto and Naruto hanging out at this point. They've kind of, teammate probably had to like go on a mission. I think actually they did say that. Like, yeah, teammate probably was getting ready to go on a mission. Or they just came back from a mission or whatever. There's a reason they couldn't go on be a part of Team 7 at that point. But Naruto and Naruto are just chilling out, meet up with Shikamaru, Choji, and then they're all happy and go lucky. But I think they all sense the ink clone coming or ink summoning, and they just attack it and destroy it. And they see Sai out there. There he is, and they're all doing their thing. Naruto's using some water jutsu to just dilute the ink. Naruto's rushing through, and he just summons Akuma and say, "Oh, you're pretty weak. Are you a boy or a girl? And you're pretty stupid. Are you blind or deaf? Are you blind? Wow, and you're pretty weak yourself. Are you blind or just not a good ninja?" It's like, and Sai's like, "Huh?" It's like, what the heck is he? And all of a sudden he gets bounded by ninja wires. The Naruto in front of him poofs, and he's just like, It's like, just gets him with the ninja wire trick he used against Naruto. So was it Naruto I had him use it against, or was it his match in? Or was it his match against Choji? That's who I put him up against this time around. But anyway, he just grabs it and then he poofs and disappears. Like, he got away, and the wires go back in there. He got away. He goes like, Naruto, and Sai goes to report back to Danzo, who's like, "Oh dear, it's not your fault, Sai. I had the utmost confidence our plan would go through, but until then, we will just have to wait." Yeah, I didn't really like Danzo's dub voice, by the way. I always got a deeper voice from him, a bit more of like this. Instead of like this weird old man, I expected something a bit more akin to, well, honestly, kind of a bit more akin to like Madara a little bit, but more gruff with the age. Like, I see. So this is what you're doing, Ninetales. Something like that. Like, kind of like Madara's, but with a more older gruff to it to illustrate his age. Either way. And so, yeah, actually for a while now, nothing really changes that much. Naruto continues to work on Winjutsu, though. I will say this. He got the Wind Rasengan, because I haven't really revealed much of what they learned yet. But he has the Wind Rasengan down. He does have the Wind Rasengan. He's still trying to get the Rasen Shuriken. Likewise, Naruto is now learning through Naruto's method to try to add her own element to the Rasengan, in this case water, which I think would work because they both have excessive amounts of chakra. Him thanks to the Ninetales, and just thanks to Ninetales, long term has more chakra. And I made so he kind of had more chakra to begin with, not by much, but a little bit. She had better control, though. I think that was I made that the trade off, and I think that worked. So she's adding the water chakra, and the thing is, we see with the tail beast balls that they all just turn into Rasen Shurikens, just with different elements. Maybe that's because he's combining more elements into one, but honestly, I never really liked that. I like the idea that because of the nature of the element, it changes the fundamental nature of the Rasengan. I mean, look at Boruto's Vanishing Rasengan. That's what happens apparently when lightning chakra goes into it. At least something that can happen. So with water, what would be the change? Well, first off, you just have the water style water Rasengan, which would just basically be which basically have like little waves of whirlpools kind of moving around it. And so they clash. The wind, I think, even though those two are not naturally opposing, surprisingly, I think the wind does blow away the water and ultimately beats her Rasengan. But I think they then learn practice on pushing it to the umpteenth degree. They learn to add. Fortunately, they don't need as many clones. They actually only need the one clone. Naruto needed the one clone to add his wind chakra and form the Rasengan. Here, they do need a clone to add the sufficient amount of their own element. I think eventually they could learn, because I imagine if you do it with one hand, you use the other chakra to add your element. I imagine you could do it that way at some point, but that would take a lot more practice, and I don't think they have that skill level. So they practice with their water Rasengan. They ultimately hear about the passing of Azuma, and ultimately then join the backup crew, we'll call it, to aid Kakashi against Kakuzu. Now, real quick, did Tenzo make it back? Because Tenzo's the one who was kind of leading that. Such a good question. I will say Tenzo probably made it back alive to report. He did. Yeah, Tenzo is a skilled enough ninja that, despite the fact he kind of became a joke by the latter part of the series, I think that would work. In terms of what the Team 7 is, it is just Team 7. It's Sasuke, Sakura, Naruto, and Naruto. By the way, Sasuke would have probably be a Jonin at this point. Sakura and Naruto are both Chunin, and Naruto's the Genin, which Sasuke would probably lord over Naruto very effectively. So they show up as Chia. I can replace your heart and with your element. Perhaps even gain your shot. I don't know if Kakuzu took a shy like a Hyuga's or a Chia's, or honestly any bloodline user's heart. He would have their blood in him. He would have it. So in theory, could he gain a Kekkei Genkai that way? I mean, I think that's a legitimate question. I'm going to say for a time being no, because he's not a natural user, and it's just their heart. I'm going to say no, but I think that's a question that needs to be answered, because that's a cool question to ask. Like, what would be the most powerful version of Kakuzu there is if he can only have 5 hearts, including his own? So Naruto and Naruto's like, no, we got this. It's like, as they want to show off what they've learned, and Naruto has the Rasen Shuriken. And Naruto, when she fires off, they both fire off their attacks simultaneously, has the Hydro Sengan. Now, the Hydro Sengan, I liken to basically a whirlpool. Like, the ball is still there, but the whirlpool is basically, she's holding a giant whirlpool condensed into her hand, basically. Instead of it just launching out, she's holding it there. And that's why she's got to basically use 2 hands, because she's got to hold it there. And this ball, and what you don't see when you see the massive amount of swirling water chakra is the hole in the middle of their hands, middle of the ball. So when she basically just throws it, think of it like the tornado fist explosion with water. That's in essence what she's doing. Then Naruto basically fires Rasen Shuriken, and they combine together to create Rasen Maelstrom, or Maelstrom Rasengan. I'm trying to think what else. Typhoon Sengan. Hurasengan's not bad. Actually, I like Hurasengan. We'll go with Hurasengan. Hurasengan! And just this boom has the effects of both the Rasen Shuriken, which, because of the wind chakra, basically destroyed you on a cellular level. And the effects of the whirlpool, which basically, I think the effects of the whirlpool would be actually affecting almost like gravity itself, pulling you in and just kind of like bashing you around on such a high level. So you combine them together. Kakuzu barely survived 1 Rasen Shuriken from a Naruto who was weaker than this version. He is just flat out dead at the end of this. So they walk, but it still injures his hand. Naruto's, I think, is better off. It gets bludgeoned. It is completely messed up. But I do think she's in better shape than Naruto, who we saw had similar damage to Kakuzu, although not to the same level. And so, so that's the end of Kakuzu, and we know what happened with Hidan. Sasuke and Itachi. This, I think, is just Sasuke. And every now and then if Sasuke's in a relation to someone, I always like the idea of him going to a balcony at his clan compound after getting out of bed and seeing whoever he's with just sleeping in bed, like after a night of lovemaking. They're like, and he just looks over and he's in a happy spot, and all of a sudden Itachi's crow comes offering him. It's like, all right, you want me? Here I am. I always love that setup and that design. Unfortunately, he's not in a relationship right now, so he probably wakes up and just looks out at the moon, and then the crow comes, gives him what he wants. And the question is, does he go out on his own here? Is the curse mark still able to influence him enough that he doesn't tell anyone? I'll say this. I do think because Naruto is his best friend at this point that he does leave something for Naruto in the morning to find, but he does still go out on his own. So when Naruto finds it, they go to Tsunade. They form the team, Team 8, Team 7. They go out to get Sasuke. Now here's the thing. Sasuke doesn't have a team. It's just Sasuke. There is no Karin, Sugetsu, or Jugo. So he just goes, confronts Itachi. Kazami allows this. And Obito, stalls them the hell out, and there's nothing they can really do about it at this point. The fight with Itachi and Sasuke, I do think, goes very similarly, although Sasuke is stronger in this version than he is in the canon. And this is due to the fact he's just had many more years of training. I still think he's learned Kirin. He's had many more years of training under someone who can actually teach him a lot more. Like, we don't know how many jutsu Sasuke actually learned under Orochimaru. We know he learned to fully utilize his curse mark, learned a lot of snake jutsu. We know he had a couple new fire jutsu in Kirin. And he modifies Chidori. However, with Kakashi, who's mastered over 1,000 jutsu training with him training under that, and actually having a Sharingan so he can actually practice with that, no, he's learned more under that. Because honestly, besides the snake-based jutsus, there's nothing Orochimaru taught him that someone else in the village, like Kakashi, couldn't have already taught him. And the fact that there's someone with a Sharingan just benefited even more, so he could learn more with his Sharingan. So ultimately, Sasuke and him clash. It does hold out a little bit more, but ultimately he drains his chakra to the point where Orochimaru comes back out. Actually, Orochimaru is still alive. That's, I think, the big change here. So Orochimaru doesn't really come out per se. His influence is still there, though, and I think because he does live on through some of his curse mark, there might be some influence where he starts to maybe try to take over Sasuke through the mark, but ultimately it doesn't mean anything. And I don't think Itachi tries to stab him with the Tusken Blade. I don't think that happens, because the reason he was able to basically remove the seal is because Orochimaru came out of the seal, more or less took Sasuke, and then he sealed Orochimaru away. That can't really happen. So unless he literally focuses tiny on the seal on his neck and tries to just focus on the seal, which would require way too much controlled focus right now, I don't think he's going to remove the seal. But ultimately, though, Sasuke, he does die, Itachi, and Sasuke is victorious and passes out. Zetsu goes and informs him of this. Naruto tries to go and save his friend, but ultimately they do take Sasuke away this time around. I don't think Naruto is able to bypass Obito very effectively this time around, sadly. Although, you could, I say that, but now thinking on it, there is both Naruto and Naruto, and they can just spam clones. And Naruto might have enough forethought to be like, okay, we need to distract this guy so we can get out of here. So, I suppose, actually, you could make the argument that between Naruto and Naruto, they spam enough clones that they are able to distract Obito just enough for one of them, their real bodies, to get to Sasuke in time. I don't have a coin on me, because I actually like to flip on whether or not I want to do that or not. Let's see here. Okay, I have a stack of magic cards here. If the mana cost is even, we're gonna go with they got to him in time. If the mana cost is odd, they didn't get to him in time. And the mana cost was odd, so they did not get to him in time. So, yes, Obito. So, yeah, I just did that on the fly because I realized there was a way they could have gotten to him beforehand. I'm like, let's do it that way. I always like that idea. If I don't have a coin on call, let's use the mana cost of a magic card. So, yeah, Naruto and the gang don't get there in time. Sasuke is taken by Obito. And so now they're lamenting the loss of Sasuke. Now they got to go and get him back or figure out a way to get him back. And it's at that point they learned of the passing of Jiraiya. Now we haven't spoken about Jiraiya much in this. That's because even in the canon he shows up here and there, but yeah, unfortunately he wouldn't have a very strong presence on the plot. At least not in this one. So yeah, Jiraiya died fighting Pain, Nagato, and Naruto and Naruto hear this. This is hard hitting for a lot of people, particularly for Tsunade, who see, it's never truly said whether or not Tsunade actually did love Jiraiya romantically or not. It's implied, it's hinted at she might have. That's why she mourned him so much. But really, I think it was more she was mourning, and it's implied too. She wasn't going to make it easy on him when he got back. Basically, that was the implication too, that maybe she'd finally give him that date or whatever. But I think it's just more implied she just really cared about him as a friend. Plus, he was one of her oldest friends that was still around. It was just another loss in her long life. So I think that was what it was. But this hits Naruto harder than the rest of them, except for Naruto. We'll get there. Because she actually did train under Jiraiya, and even though he was a pervert, she could tell, he was still a very good man. Deep down, he cared about people, he cared about peace. He was a pervert, and he's a bit of annoying, but he's also funny, and he was a great ninja and a great teacher. And this hits her hard, but it's still Naruto. Naruto trained under this guy. He actually saw this guy as a father figure. We get that too. We get the impression that he saw Jiraiya a little bit like a father figure. Iruka's an older brother figure. And he was Naruto's godfather. Jiraiya, I think, was a father figure, and so he goes around doing the mourning that he's doing. Naruto is there with him as well. Now I think this Naruto is able to ease it a bit because she, among anyone else besides him, had the strongest connection with Jiraiya apart from Tsunade. So they're kind of just she's holding his hand, and they're kind of just mourning in their own way. She realizes that he needs to be alone. I think that's one of the things she ultimately realizes he needs to do. So after she gives him a hug and says, I'll be back at our place. Then he goes and he has that talk with Iruka, and ultimately, he's back in the fray, he's back in form, and goes to train with Fugasu. And I think Naruto goes with them. I do think Naruto goes, because she was also a student of the Great Toad Sage, and she's an Uzumaki. So I think they will be able to make use of training her in the sage arts as well. So we're going to end this with them arriving at Mount Miyabuku, or Mayabuku, depending on your pronunciation of the word. So that's the end of part 12. Thinking of where we're at in the story right now, I guess in theory, we might be able to get through it in the final, in part 13. My best guess, though, is we're gonna get through it in the next two. We're gonna finish it up in the next two vids, and that is due to the fact that we still have to address what's going on with Sasuke this whole time, because they now have to go not only just train to deal with Pain and the Akatsuki, but also to rescue Sasuke. Excuse me. So, yeah. We'll wait to see what happens in part 13. But until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, if you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. Hit that bell if you want to be notified. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.